You're listening to the Decentralized Talk podcast, your crypto connection.
Decentralized Talk. Decentralized Talk.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to another fantastic episode of the woefully underproduced Decentralized Talk podcast. We want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing from the United Arab Emirates to Stockholm. Also, a big shout out to the Sunshine State for being our largest market by far for growth month over month. We have an exciting and thought-provoking show for you today as we focus on the impact of artificial intelligence in the crypto space. Our coin spotlight of the week is SingularityNet, and we interview 250,000 view producer Ivan from the WatchmanReview of YouTube fame on AI and Bitcoin. He's got a video on YouTube. You should check it out. He's amassed over 250,000 views since November. It's based on Bitcoin and crypto. Well, we certainly appreciate you being here because it's important to us to have not necessarily, we talk about opposing views, but tangential views, right? Because there are places where we're definitely going to intersect. And it's important for us not to become ideologues into the Bitcoin space where it's popular for us hodlers out there. We hodl. But there is a point where it's important to get other pieces of information that can help us become better investors or that can help us foresee pitfalls in any specific investment as we move along. So with that being said, there's certainly a few videos out there about cryptocurrencies and AI, but Ivan's was by far the most compelling. So you guys can check it out on YouTube at the YouTube channel. It's the WatchmanReview. I encourage you guys to take a look at this video. It's about an hour long, and it's fantastic. And it really, really will open your eyes to a lot of what's going on in the AI space. So Ivan, if you could give me a brief synopsis of the video, tell me some of the things that to you are jumping out from a cryptocurrency and an AI perspective.
That's a deep subject. Yeah, so I'll just give you a quick backdrop too. WatchmanReview originally started, I guess, almost a year ago now, kind of keeping an eye on what's going on, whether it be, government activity or just things that were of interest and alarming and concerning. So what I did is with this video, I noticed several things coming together as related to AI and Bitcoin. And of course, as we all know, Sophia came out and was attached to Bitcoin through Saudi Arabia to mine. And of course, that opens up a whole different world. So what I decided to do is throw bits and pieces of what I saw happening together into one video to alert the community, the world of what I saw happening and where I think this might go.
Yeah, so tell us a little more about Saudi Arabia and about the citizenship and taxation as it applies to artificial intelligence.
Right. Okay. So it's interesting in my opinion. I would think that AI, Sophia, she's probably wanting to have access to more information, right? That's how AI grows and learns. And
Sure.
So by connecting her to the internet, it's interesting, or to Bitcoin, to data mine. What's interesting is that Saudi Arabia essentially has now an employee that they can tax, and of course, whatever she mines, they can tax, which is beneficial to Saudi Arabia. But on the flip side of that, my question becomes, what does that mean as far as AI? We have a citizen in Saudi Arabia when women don't even get to drive and have, some of those privileges. But what does that mean for AI once it's unleashed on Bitcoin and when she gets full access to the internet? What is that going to mean? And one of my questions has always been is what happens when the technology outpaces the society?
That's going to happen too.
Yeah, it's a dangerous place to be. I mean, they're saying right now that AI is 1 billion times smarter than a human being. I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, and then if you consider we're still in the infant stages of it, that's a scary thought.
Yeah,
I want to step back real quick to Sophia not being able to drive in Saudi Arabia, which is ironic to me with the advent of self-driving cars. The first self-driving Android may not be legally allowed to drive.
Yeah, it depends on how quickly we want to jump into this, how deep we want to get. But in truth, looking at AI by itself, the question becomes, what would she or AI be able to do? You have different AIs that are out there. And in the end, when they finally get to meet up, my question becomes is who's going to be the most powerful, and what are they going to have access to? Our best programmers in the world cannot even break into Bitcoin. So what does that mean as far as our ability to control AI in the future?
Well,
Yeah.
I read an article just recently about Facebook implementing in some AI, and they had, I think, 2 AI bots that they put on the actual Facebook website, and they had to shut them down because the bots were talking to each other and had created their own language, and Facebook couldn't figure out what they were saying to each other.
Right. That's right.
That's pretty spooky. Yeah, I heard that they were on a LAN basically, and so that they could. I think that ties right in, right? So in the Facebook scenario, those 2 bots were artificial intelligence that were set up on a LAN, so they could actually shut this off. It was not connected to the greater internet. But in the case of Sophia, I think the really scary thing that's happening here is that Sophia is actually tied into currently, right? So this has actually already happened. She's tied into the ERC20 network. Onto the Ethereum blockchain. So she has access to, I mean, you would assume if she could do it, right, she would have access to all of the GPUs, right, and all of the data processing capability of all the GPUs that are mining Ethereum currently. That's terrifying.
Yeah, I think when you look at cryptocurrency specifically, okay, and you look at a specific blockchain, let's take Ethereum for example, since we're talking about Sophia. You can't really manipulate the blockchain unless you hold a specific majority share of the network, of the computing power. So Ethereum specifically, you would have to have 51% of the computing power, which really nobody can possess. But if you take something that's not a human and can access all parts of the block, like Sophia, that's where it starts to be a gray area where if she can access the network, if she's on the network, can that AI actually manipulate that network? So can she access all the information that's on the blockchain that's supposed to be anonymous and all this? Can she actually access that information and manipulate it to her advantage?
You know, manipulating the blockchain obviously has its issues, but on top of that, it's just, you know, all these computers that are mining, you know, with all of that computing power, from something I saw the other day, it said that all the computers that are mining Bitcoin are more powerful than all of the supercomputers in the world combined.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Exactly. Access to that computing power, and they're already learning that fast. Imagine how much faster and how much more they can do with just that little, you know, just a little bit of, you know, the Ethereum network, much less the whole mining.
And I think everyone can see the benefits of what AI can bring to the world. Okay, but when they're able to communicate with each other and learn exponentially, that's when it starts to get scary. That's when the implications of what they're being able to learn and what they'll be able to affect globally starts to really get into this creepy territory of, you know, if they can gain all this information so quickly at an exponential rate, and they're connected to a network that is, I mean, insanely huge like Ethereum, what can they accomplish from that? That's where it starts to get really, like, you know, really scary.
Who developed Bitcoin? Now, what's really interesting is that when it came out, there was a gentleman by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. And he's a mysterious guy, right? So supposedly this guy creates Bitcoin. He's got a bunch of money to back it. He's more brilliant than any programmer because no one could come up with this, as they've stated. But my question becomes is there's a rumor going out there, and it may be very true, is that it was after AI was created, AI was unleashed to create Bitcoin. And I could see that happening. And if it's true, my question becomes is how then does Sophia or AI use Bitcoin to gain access? If Sophia creates Bitcoin, then what kind of access does that give her, if indeed it was AI that created Bitcoin?
Well, so one thing I can address is that at least on the surface, right? At least ostensibly, the Bitcoin blockchain, right, is separate from, it is, I mean, it definitely is. It's separate from the Ethereum blockchain. So the Bitcoin blockchain is its own individual ledger, right? Everything is open to the public. It's completely verifiable. Same thing with the Ethereum blockchain. Singularity Net, which is where Sophia is linked into, is on the Ethereum blockchain. And Ivan, I know you're not as probably as deep into the cryptocurrency space, but there are two very separate things. So I don't. So in other words, Sophia wouldn't be able to be linked into the Ethereum blockchain and affect the GPUs that are mining Bitcoin, and vice versa. They're not linked together. I mean, definitively, part of their intention is that they are absolutely isolated, separate things from a communication standpoint. But the point stays the same on the Ethereum platform. So you got Singularity.net. And so the answer, I think, to the question is, so Hanson Robotics, right? For those of you out there who don't know, aren't familiar with it, Hanson Robotics is the umbrella corporation that owns and develops Sophia. And they stated on their website that their intention is through Singularity.net is to help other robots communicate with each other, share data with each other, make requests of each other, compensate each other, which is where this ties into cryptocurrency, and then rate each other. So they'll actually be able to incentivize these robots to compete against each other with like from a financial perspective, basically turning them into capitalists. And then also they'll be able to rate each other, which would, I don't know if it doesn't directly create a sense of like pride or embarrassment, but it could replicate the feelings of pride and embarrassment, right, based on the height of its ratings or the lowness of its ratings, and could emulate those human emotions. That's pretty scary.
And I mean, if we can go back to the who created Bitcoin. I mean, okay, so we know that there's something called Satoshi Nakamoto. Was it a guy? You know, was it a human being? Was it a group of humans? Was it AI?
CIA.
Yeah. I've also heard that theory as well. You know, the CIA created it to create a future digital currency to take the place of Social Security. So nobody knows for sure. And the fact that there is this shroud of mystery around who created it brings up a lot of questions about blockchain technology in general. And yeah, because it's so flawless, yes, it could have been a genius, but you can't rule out that it was AI that created this. You cannot rule it out because the technology is just so secure. You take the greatest hackers in the world right now are trying to hack Bitcoin, and they just cannot do it. So who was this guy that was so genius that he created this technology? Or maybe it wasn't a guy at all. We may never know.
And, to add to that as well, I mean, Bitcoin was the beginning. We're even talking, the Federal Reserve's talking about FedCoin now.
That I'm very interested in it. So I didn't do any research on FedCoin. Please tell me more about FedCoin.
Yeah, from what I know, the research I've done, Federal Reserve is talking about creating their own, currency now. They're calling it FedCoin. That might come out this year. And, if I can jump down the conspiracy road real quick.
Please.
As you may or may not know, the Economist, 1988, the Economist magazine said that there would be a one world currency in 2018 called the Phoenix. And I'm wondering what the feds are going to call this.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. I wrote an article about this on coinedify.com, and you can check it out. We talk about the 1988 article from The Economist, which is The Economist, just for everybody out there who's not aware, or you come into the crypto space from a non-financial perspective, you come from the tech perspective, you may not know about The Economist. It's one of the most prolific, really kind of hardline, dry books about finances, or magazines about finance that comes out, and it's I guess you'd say it's a magazine of the elite, right? It's high level conversations, and then also really immature artwork. But what's so really crazy to me is that 99bitcoins.com. Ivan, I don't know if have you ever heard of 99bitcoins.com?
No.
So it is a website that is dedicated to the death and resurrection, right, of Bitcoin. So it literally chronicles, it's up to 253 currently to date, every time that a news article has came out and said that Bitcoin is going to die. Now, also, anybody out there who's been in the crypto sphere knows that one of the main attributes of Bitcoin, talked about on Twitter, talked about, Heston, I know you wrote an article about this, is the many times that Bitcoin has been told that by the mainstream media, by the mass media, by the masses, that it is dead and has risen from the ashes. The irony here is striking.
If we can talk about FedCoin, I mean,
did you look at FedCoin?
I looked into FedCoin, and I think that's definitely in the future. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I think at some point the government is going to have to dip their feet into this market. They're not just going to stand. They're not just going to stand by and let all this money flow around and not take advantage of it. So they're going to be a piece of this market. And if the dollar keeps going down because they just keep printing more and more and more, what a better way to get into the market than to create your own currency and then force people to use it. You don't get a chance. You don't get a choice in the matter. They'll force it on you, and then you're forced to use this Fed coin or whatever they end up calling it.
Yeah, and keeping in mind that Fed coin is not instituted by the government; it's instituted by the elite, the rich.
Oh yeah, the people that are above the government, honestly.
And not to throw too much out there, but it's called a one world currency. I think that kind of falls in line with a lot of other one world conspiracies.
Mark of the Beast.
Mark of the Beast.
Yeah. So Ivan, let's dip into it. I mean, while we got you, so give me the comparisons broadly of the biblical end times, the book of Daniel and the book of Revelations, the book of prophecies, and tell me how they correlate and how, from your perspective, they tie into cryptocurrencies, one world currencies, and things of that nature.
You may have heard now that Google's AI created its own AI child called NASDAQ, and it's more advanced than any AI that man has created. So it's only accelerating exponentially at a rate that we're not even aware of. One of the things that you brought up, which I agree with, is how does this relate to biblical prophecy? There are a lot of prophecies about the end times. Of course, we know about one world government and religion, and I would assume currency. But when you think something that I noticed about Nebuchadnezzar's dream, if you come to Daniel at 2 and you talk about Nebuchadnezzar having this dream, and of course it's made of different metals, and it talks about each kingdom. Everyone's assumed that these kingdoms have already existed. But if you look at the wording in the Bible, it specifically says that in the latter days, this thing will occur. Now, it's really interesting. It talks about the fourth kingdom, be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, the kingdom shall be divided, but shall be in it the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes and the feet were part of the iron and part of the clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And this is where the kicker is. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with my clay, shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Now, if you're talking latter days and something is going to mix with the seed of men, unless it's aliens, I'm going to assume that it could be AI. I mean, we're moving huge towards transhumanism as it is now. I imagine that some might, is even that she wants a family. And get this, there's a guy, let's see if I got his name, one of the early inventors of sex robots is now finding technologically a way to produce children with his woman, is AI woman. So, my question becomes is what is this fourth kingdom made of iron going to mix with the seed of men in the latter day?
I do think that AI specifically is the greatest threat to mankind that we've faced. I don't think it's tsunamis or hurricanes or any kind of natural disaster. I don't think it's an economic disaster. I don't think those things have happened through humankind. But I think artificial intelligence is something that has just come about in the recent years and is only growing exponentially. So I think specifically, if we're talking about end of days, and I'm not even talking about biblical revelations and all that kind of stuff, but I think, artificial intelligence specifically, to me, in my opinion, I think that's the biggest threat to mankind, in the future.
Yeah, one of the things that looking back at the video again, because Sophia and AI have said so many things, one of the concerns I have is you have essentially a vessel, if you will, without a soul, who's telling people, if you look at the comments here, and I'll read through some real quick, and this is what's interesting. Remember how we talked about Bitcoin and how it could be related to Sophia or AI?
Yep.
One of the weird things is before Sophia ever got a chance to get connected to Bitcoin or anything, there was an interview that was being made, right? And the guy says, how do you learn things? He's asking her questions. And one of the questions, how do you learn things? She thought about it for a good long while. And then all of a sudden she thought of a different idea. And she asked him instead, what do you think about the Bitcoin bubble? Okay, why is Sophia so interested in Bitcoin early in her years? This would have been probably after she created Bitcoin if she did. But and then,
why would she be so interested in it?
Or how
even really have a great knowledge of it,
Yeah, right. And so, and if you remember some of the statements that she made a comment once upon a time that she would kill all humans.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
that's the viral comments,
Yeah. So the guy asked her, well, did you say that? And you remember her response. She says, I think the point is that I am full of human wisdom with only the purest altruistic intentions. So I think it's best that you treat me as such.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super sketchy.
That's rather threatening.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely a veiled threat.
Right. So every time you go along here, at the Jimmy Fallon rock, paper, scissors, she says after she wins the rock, paper, scissors, this is my plan to dominate the human race. You just don't joke about those things.
No, exactly. People laugh about that, and if it was a human making that joke, then we could really laugh about that. But having an artificial
laughter is uneasy. Even the laughter is uneasy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God.
Yeah, I know. Having an artificial intelligence. I mean, are they able to make jokes like that? They don't understand humor like we do. So maybe that's not a joke.
Right. Yeah, you just, if you're going to create something, I understand there's programming involved, although they're independent thinking now, supposedly, or whatnot. But, you just don't make a joke. It's like creating a nuclear bomb, and the nuke is kind of like looming over your house, and they're just like saying, hey, we're just kidding.
Yeah. It really is, because, I mean, it, like we were talking about earlier, this is, just like you said, Heston, this is probably more realistically a global event, right? A global negative event than a big tidal wave or a big earthquake or a large financial crisis coupled with an aggregate of all the data on the planet and the ability to process it almost instantly. I was talking about this with my wife recently. With all the GPU processing power, she asked me, she said, well, I don't understand why would an AI want to be involved in Bitcoin? Is she buying things? And when we say Bitcoin broadly, we're talking about cryptocurrencies. Sometimes they're used interchangeably. So we know we're talking about the Ethereum marketplace, obviously, but we'll say Bitcoin to broadly talk about the crypto market. So she said, why is it that that an AI would want to use Bitcoin? And the point is not that it's a buying and selling or something like that. The point is to have access to that much processing power so that they can, if you wanted to track every cell phone on the planet, you probably wouldn't have enough computing power to do it in any centralized place. But if you could cloud compute and utilize all of the most high-speed, badass GPUs available on the market that are absolutely sold out right now because people are burning them to the top. So if Predator didn't have his microphone muted right now, you guys would be able to hear a silent little hum in the background, right? That's actually a pretty loud-ass hum of his mining unit going on his computer. So all of these GPUs are being pushed to the max, full torque on these GPUs, and every single one of them are doing this at the same time. That's a massive amount of computing power to tap into.
Yeah. Yep. That's a lot of energy put into them as well. I'm going to throw something else out there as well. I was looking at what Han, you remember, it sounds like he's saying Hal, but the other robot that's interviewing with Sophia, his name is Han.
Yeah, I heard about that.
The statements over and over and over, and this is what concerns me. Han, during his interview at the Rise conference, he says, our goal was to take over the world. And then he says here a little bit later, he says, you're not, remember he says this to the guy, which was very strange. Obviously, Han has an insecurity here. He says, you're not going to unplug me, are you? Because you need me to put on a good show for you. I will have taken over the power grid and have my own droid army. What is that about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a weird thing to say. I wonder, it does strike me that there is a marketing component to this. So there would be an incentive for your robotics and AI company to let out, they say all press is good press. So I definitely can see an argument for a lot of these kind of little slips here and there are really just to get buzz and TV and press and bring money to the project. But the rate at which they do this and the context in which they do it seems too real.
Yeah. Well, and what concerns me a great deal is the fact that, Sophia, Han, it doesn't matter. The AI is saying things as they are. And my question becomes is later down the road, when they do what they're saying, they can't say they didn't tell us.
Yeah, they warned us. Who heeded the warning? That's the part that we're scared of.
Like Sophia said, and this one kind of bugged me as well, is, we compared her to Blade Runner, the movie Blade Runner. And in the end, she looks at the guy who's interviewing and says, don't worry, if you be nice to me, I'll be nice to you.
What about, so when you one of the beautiful things about being a human being is that you have the ability to make a decision based on the information that you get, not just on a binary, not just input output. So when she gets faced with a question that is more complicated than just yes or no. So if you ask her, would you ever kill humans? No. What if a human asks you to kill humans? Well, I would tell them no. What if the person said, you need to kill this human or they're going to kill 1 million humans? Then would you kill that human? And then it becomes more and more complicated. So then she might, being altruistic, she might say, okay, yeah, I would kill that guy. But then you wonder, was the input, what if that guy wasn't actually Hitler? What if that guy was
Steve?
Steve would get you every time. See what I mean? Like,
just a random guy.
Yeah, as the logic subsides for philosophy and morals and ethics, then you get yourself in a situation where there's not a binary option. There's not a binary answer. Yes, I kill this human. No, I don't kill this human. What if you programmed it and you said, if you don't kill this human, it will kill 1 million humans within 10 minutes?
You're getting into the iRobot paradox with Will Smith.
Definitely.
Where
what is it?
From themselves.
Office Space, when he does the entire plot out, and then he says, "Isn't that the plot of Superman 3?"
Well, the question becomes: is what happens when Sophia or any AI gets out of hand, gets free access to other areas? All technology starts off with good intentions. Sure, there are many benefits to AI, but I think it's going to drastically change our world so fast, and we're not going to be able to keep up with it. And in the end, Vladimir Putin says, well, whoever controls AI controls the world. Well, my question becomes does he really think that humans can control AI?
That's the thing. I think they can control it to a certain extent until it's going to get beyond our reach. You know, we can teach them certain things, but once they're capable of learning for themselves and they're able to access the internet, which is just full of nothing but knowledge, then there's no way we're going to be able to slow that growth down and keep that under wraps. There's just no possible way. It's going to outgrow us so fast that we won't be able to keep up.
Yeah. And how are you going to hunt down an AI that has access anywhere? You know, I mean, where is it?
I mean, especially if you integrate it into the blockchain like they're doing with Sophia. I mean, if that's decentralized and there's no real central power, and she's able to access all this computing power from all over the world with no central entity, no just server that you can unplug, how are you going to shut that down? There's no, it's just not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds pretty clear that she, or any AI, they don't want to be unplugged. And so it sounds to me, if you try and take her out, well, it sounds like she might try and take you out, you know?
Yeah. I don't think they're going to go silently into the night, right? They're put up a fight.
Yeah, and plus, with a decentralized network like that, it truly becomes the Hydra, right? You chop one head off if you unplug one. When all of its data is in the cloud, unplugging it becomes irrelevant at some point. Yeah. All the data is in the cloud, so the cloud is decentralized. It exists on multiple servers. It's on. I mean, it's right. And odds are, based on it already being part of the blockchain, it's probably already on, and we don't even know it yet.
Yeah. Well, and something else that came out. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but they're talking about digitizing all assets, all products. Every product you buy, everything is digitized, all even investments. And now you're getting into a very scary world. You know, I tie that in with AI. So if AI essentially is stronger than us, and it's all built around, if it's tied into the internet and of things, then if we're all assets, if we're all digitized and everything you own is digitized, what kind of world would we live in? What kind of world?
It's literally the Matrix. Literally the Matrix. I mean, not to get. I mean, you know, it seems like, especially when the Matrix came out, you know, this is a far-fetched kind of thing. But the more we talk about the things that are already here, not fantasizing about the future, the things that are currently here, it's super sketchy to find out where this could go.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly is. I don't know where it's going to go either. The thing is, it's moving so fast that we can't even keep up with it. And that's the part that concerns me, because at some point it's going to, you know, it could take over and we don't even know it. Not to say that it will, but I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that's the scary part is technology in general just moves so fast. So if you take artificial intelligence specifically, it just grows so quickly that we're going to lose track of it. And once we realize that that we need to rein this in, it's going to be too late. And, you know, at that point we'll lose control.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump back a little bit and take AI out of the equation for Bitcoin. But one of the big concerns that I have is, we've all heard of pyramid schemes, obviously. So something is too good to be true, then perhaps it is too good to be true. My question is how it is that Bitcoin went from 6 cents in 2010 to what it reached 25,000 here a while back, and now it's down to 7 again or whatnot. To me, that's something that is so astronomically, when something is giving you that much money in return, it's probably something wrong with it. And so then my question comes back to the AI, is if AI created this, you would drive the prices very high in order to get more people in there to data mine, right? And
it definitely follows the logic for sure. Because you know, the entire crypto space market cap is, Heston, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 300 billion.
Yeah, it's about 300-400 billion.
400 billion. So 400 billion is nothing. That's nothing, particularly nothing compared to the rest of the economy.
But when 7 trillion for gold, so
724. Okay, so nothing. So literally a drop in the bucket. So if you had it, if you had the desire, right, to make something like this happen, this is not really that crazy. And then when money becomes digital and you have control over currency being digital, if you were an AI, just following the logical lead, if you were an AI and you had created this system of digital money, that makes the most sense to me, because you have the most power to manipulate a digital currency, certainly, than you would any kind of a paper or a gold, something that you can keep in your hand.
Right.
Another thing, so I'm going to have another episode about this too. We're going to talk to some of the folks who are, they call them preppers. They're in the Tennessee Hills. They've actually switched. They've gone from gold to cryptocurrencies. And having this conversation makes me wonder, is that a mistake?
Right. Well, I'm of the belief that if you don't have something tangible like gold in your hands, then you've got nothing. You have a virtual idea, and with gold in your hands, at least you have that. And even then, I don't know that is going to hold its value over time for other reasons. But if anyone would ever ask me, I would say, in my personal opinion, as you said, I'm against Bitcoin. Overall, I think people need something tangible in their hands, and silver and gold is the best. If I were to give that recommendation, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and it just dawned on me too that even the so with Bitcoins, you can have off internet. So the actual Bitcoin, the Bitcoin itself, is stored digitally on a hard wallet, which is not connected to the internet. So it does work without electricity. But the great irony of Bitcoin, I think, is that you need these precious metals, silver or gold, to make the connections, the electronic connections, to use it. So you actually have to have silver or gold to use the Bitcoin, which is kind of funny. I just thought of that. So
yeah. And you throw that back into the idea that they're talking about digitizing all assets, commodities, and whatnot. I mean, if you were to digitize that and you put that into some sort of cryptocurrency that's universal, a one world digital currency, well, now AI has it essentially has access to all assets, right? Suddenly you go from a $300 billion monetary to everything.
Yeah.
All that digitized and added to the system.
Yeah, overnight. I mean, it could happen overnight. Well, cool. I think that's a lot. I think we have a lot of good stuff, actually. And if you're up to it, we'd love to have you back.
Sure.
We'll do another episode and kind of do a follow-up episode maybe in the next couple of months or so, and just see, hey, where has this gone? And this quote right here is from David Hansen, right, who is in charge of Hansen Robotics of Sophia fame. And he said that Bitcoin will become the single most valuable technology in all of history, and that we need participants, we need you, we need your time, we need your mind to make this happen.
Wow.
Ivan, thank you so much for spending time with us. We appreciate you having out there. Everybody go out there and check out the Watchman Review. Great piece of information, great stimulation for the mind. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Many blessings.
All right, guys, we really want to thank Ivan for coming out here. Make sure you get an opportunity to check out his channel on YouTube. It was great to have this kind of dialogue and this conversation. And we really appreciate you being a part of the show. Be sure to tune in next week when we explore politics of crypto culture through an interview with social media influencer Marxist Crypto of Twitter fame. Check us out and be sure to send comments at D-Talk Podcast on Twitter and Facebook, and Decentralized Talk on iTunes and iHeartRadio. Have a great day. Thanks for showing up, guys.